social situations can be very difficult for a lot of us on the spectrum. In fact, probably most of us. I know for myself, when I go into anything where there's a lot of people, I already know that I'm going to struggle. So, what do we do to figure this out? Because the only other option is just to stay home. So, what can we do to live life like everybody else? Let's talk about that. I have a huge toolbox that I go to all the time in order to live life. Sometimes I'm able to pull from that toolbox, sometimes I'm not able to. For the most part, I am, because I have figured it out. When I was younger, I really wasn't able to, especially high school, college, young 20s, and honestly, still to this day, I struggle in a lot of situations where there's a lot of people. So I have figured out some ways that really work for me, and I think that they can work for a lot of people on the spectrum, or just people that have social anxiety in general. One of the biggest things that I've come up with, and I kind of came up with this word, external brain. 2 words, I guess. These words, external brain. I never go into a room with a lot of people without another person. I never go to new places without another person. So I call them my external brain. I call them my seeing eye person, my reading the room person, my interpreting what's going on person. And it honestly does help me tremendously knowing that there's another person by my side. I feel safer. I can look to them. I can talk to them. I can get used to the room before I have to get settled. If I just walk into a room by myself, I instantly shut down. Everything just starts, I call it like the life is being sucked out of me. I can actually feel it. I've actually become white because of it. I just get to the point where I can barely speak at all. If I cannot find somebody to go with me, and I really only have a couple key people, it can't be anybody. It has to be somebody that I really trust to read the room, that they understand me, that I trust them, and that they are a safe person to me. If I don't have that, it just doesn't work. Now, if for some reason I do have to go by myself, and I even do this if I have somebody with me, I always have a script already in my head of how things are supposed to go. Now, of course, it's not always going to work that way. Somebody's going to say something I wasn't expecting, or it went a different course, or they asked me a question. Now, when somebody asks me a question, I am very minimal in how I answer most of the time if I'm by myself. There are some key things that allows me to be able to speak better. And these are really weird. They are so weird that I don't even know how I figured that out. Okay, one of the ways that I can speak to people with more words, like a back and forth, and I can really express myself well, say what I mean, is if there's a lot of distance between us. I mean, like yards away, a yard away. I'm pretty good at that. A mask with COVID helped me to be able to speak more. I have no idea why, but it was like some kind of a barrier between me and the other person, and it helped me be able to feel safer. I don't know. I really wish that I would like to know some kind of a research on this and see, uh, as soon as somebody moves closer to me, I stop talking. As soon as somebody leans down closer to me, like if I'm sitting and they get in my little bubble, that's done. If the lights, like if I'm sitting out, because like right now I'm on my deck, if the sun starts setting and it's getting darker in the room and we're further apart from each other and they can kind of see me and I can kind of see them, but it's not really bright, that also helps me to be able to speak more. I could be in a really bright room and somebody's sitting directly across from me. It's not happening. I can try. One of the things that I do, it's really amazing how our brains work and how we just randomly figure it out what works for us. Now, this is stuff that works for me, but if somebody sits across from me, I normally will slide over so they're not directly in front of me. If somebody's directly in front of me, it's just too much of my brain can't handle it or something. I even feel like I'm gonna start short circuiting or something. It just doesn't, I can't do it. But if I move off to the side, if they agree to sit like way over here, like on a booth across from me, and I sit here, that's a lot easier for me. If another thing that I do is I hold on really tight to a chair, a table, anything that gives me a bearing. If I don't do that, I almost feel like my head's gonna fall off or something. It's the strangest feeling, but there's just too much input and my brain can't handle it. So those are the things that help me in social situations where there's too many people. Now, going ahead of time, mapping out the room, knowing exactly where other people are sitting, know where I'm going to be sitting, know what's expected of me. I don't like people sitting behind me. I always sit to the back of the room. I always choose where I'm going to sit very carefully, and the people with me will normally say, where do you want to sit? And I figure it out where I feel the safest in the room, in the situation, and then they just sit down next to me. I don't like people on either side of my shoulders. Well, unless I don't mind, like if we're on at a long table, somebody sitting here and I have to be on the end. I also like where I'm actually at the end of the table. That way I don't have anybody on either side. Those are some of the tools that I have figured out over the years that help me live. I'm not that person that wants to stay home all the time. Yes, I don't mind being home, but I don't know what that is either, because if I'm home too much by myself, which that never happens because I have a family that I rarely get to be by myself, but I can actually feel like I need another person there. Not necessarily with me, but like they just need to be there. I need to know that they're there. I think that I just feel safer. And again, it has to be somebody that I feel safe around. Most of the time in a store, I take people that I trust, and this is really strange. I can even do it with one of my kids better than going alone. And my three younger ones are 8, 6, and 5. I mean, it's not like they can do anything to protect me or anything, but I feel safer just with the fact that they're with me. I think they're like a buffer, um, and I can navigate the store better than when I'm with my 5-year-old than when I'm by myself. And I don't understand that. Some of the things that I know are for sure with me are just, they are my for sure's. Like the term external brain, I just realized one day when I was always going and doing things and I wasn't really able to do it by myself, but I could do it with somebody else. I realized that it was because I was operating off of their brain, and because my brain wasn't really able to start working yet. Um, so having two brains to kind of help me. So if people are struggling and going into bigger social situations where you feel really overwhelmed, you feel like you're going to shut down, you feel like you're not going to be able to answer that question or know what you're supposed to do, because sometimes it's just, okay, what am I supposed to do? And I can remember my teacher in ninth grade. Well, I was 15 and I was in the newspaper. I think it was the newspaper. She had asked me why I wasn't taking notes. She had just said all this stuff, and she asked me why I was the only one in the classroom that wasn't writing anything down. Um, and it really, I just looked at her and I said, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't that person that was rebellious. I didn't want to not do it. I wanted to please. I wanted to do the right thing. In fact, it almost came across opposite of that, because how I came across to my teachers at that time was I just became a big goof. I got in trouble doing stupid stuff. And it wasn't that I wanted to do that. It was just, now that I look back, it just helped me get through school. It just helped me not be that person in the room that was shut down. So I was goofy. I did stupid things. But she asked me that question, and it's so weird because, I mean, how long ago was that? And I can remember that so clearly, that she said, why are you the only one not taking notes? And I just simply said, I don't know. But back then I really didn't have the words to answer. I didn't know. Now I do know. I do know that I just wasn't able to hear her write things down in the way that she was doing it. I didn't process as fast. I didn't hear her clearly enough for me. I mean, I was hearing words, and but that's all it was it was just, I was hearing words. The processing wasn't there. The ability to be able to hear and put it down on paper just wasn't all there at the same time. And since then, I mean, I did know growing up that the way that I was able to study to get grades was to take a tape recorder and not be able to really hear it in class. But I would go home, I would listen, I would read out loud, tape record myself, then I would listen to it back, just keep hitting stop, rewind, stop, rewind. Then I would write it down in simpler ways for me to understand it and remember it, because the comprehension was hard, the retention was hard, and so I just had to figure it out. But would take somebody like hours, or what would take somebody an hour to do, it would take me hours and hours to do. And I was a swimmer, and I had a lot of other things that I was doing, but I just decided that, you know, I was going to do this because a C was that important. If I didn't do those things, I would have failed. I mean, I had a roommate in college where she got an A and hardly ever studied. I had to really, really work hard for that C. And I was very proud of that C. But again, I wasn't able to tell my teacher any of that. And most students at that age with autism, disabilities, whatever it is, aren't really able to articulate what's really going on with them. So, because they really don't know. So, if I would have had a teacher, and I've had, I'm not going to say that I didn't have any great teachers along the way, because there are some that stand out to me. But, if you got that kid that's quiet, if you got that kid that seems as if they're not listening, if you've got that kid that's not taking notes, that is being goofy in class, there might just be more to the story. There might be really that they just need your help. And if you sat down with them one on one and gave them the help and maybe slow down, allow them to process, allow them to be able to learn the way that they do. Because, teachers just teach in a general setting, and everybody is expected to learn the same way, and they really don't. You've got 30 kids in there, you probably have 30 kids that learn 30 different ways. So it's very hard on the teacher. But I'm just trying to express how it was for me and what it was like for me in the classroom. And shutting down was one of the biggest things, because there was a lot of kids in the class, so it was that made it even harder for me to hear and understand what the teacher was saying, for me to be able to put that down on paper. So, some of these tools that I've developed along the way, they really do help me. Some of the times I'm not able to pull them out because I'm tired, or I don't have that external brain. Sometimes I just do it anyway, even though it's hard. And that script is really important. I have it set in my brain. I walk through exactly what people are going to do or say, and then I say, and if they say this, then this is what I'm going to say. Sometimes I write it down. I was a journalist, and that helped me tremendously, being a journalist, by writing it down, figuring out exactly what people were saying, by having my tape recorder, and then, that helped me be able to really listen to people and tell their story the way that it needed to be told. I want to be around people. Sometimes people with autism are not really understood. And it's just like, oh, you're too social, that way you don't have autism. And that's not the way it is. A lot of people that have autism, they genuinely want to be with other people. We're just awkward and we don't know how to do it. And lots of times I just want to say things that I know I shouldn't say. And so either I want to be too honest, or I just want to say, that thing that, just isn't like politically correct, or, and those things do happen. But over age, with time, I've learned how to not say those things too, for the most part. Sometimes I still do. Sometimes I play the autism card, and that really is a thing for me. But playing the autism card doesn't mean that you can't work hard, that you can't do, because for me, I've always done. Not doing is not the option. I just figure out a way. If I figured out 100 ways that don't work, then I figured out 100 ways that don't work, but I keep trying until I figure out a way that works for me, because I want to go in and live and enjoy and dream and follow my dreams. And I'm still doing those things, and I always have done those things, and I've had a tremendous life. Yes, I'm autistic, but you can figure it out. I figured it out, and I hope this helped you. Please subscribe and tell your friends. I don't post that often, but when I do, it's because I'm led to post something. I do want to start posting more now that I have a little bit more time on my hands. We had a really crazy summer. But if this helped you, please make a comment, message me, but subscribe, share, hit that bell to get a notification in case I ever do post, or when I do post. Like my kids always say. Again, ready? Do it.
1, 2, 3, smash that like button.
And the way that I always end every video is keep being you and keep moving forward. Thanks.